you, Ted. Thank you very much. Everything is everything. Everything is everything. Everything is everything. And as we work together this evening, if you feel inspired by anything, I want you just to say, everything is everything. So practice it with me one time. Everything is, everything is, everything is, there you go. Everything is everything. Jazz and Yoruba spiritual traditions and theater arouse my unspeakable curiosity, arresting my attention, poised, ready, tantalized. The way Coltrane's Dear Lord moves in me and evokes so many things at the same time is like prayer in the grove with the calabash held high. When Thelonious Monk kaplunks a note and something in me awakens when my body moves around the circle with my back bent for a batala, and I smile and just want to cut loose in my own improvised praise to the force of justice and wisdom, it is all striking the same vibration, tweaking the same root. When I stomp, wide leg, flinging sweat around the performance circle and declare, this is where it all comes together. I know that Mama's Biscuits made to the harmonies of Brooke Benton and Dinah Washington. I know that people jumping with the spirit at Second Baptist Church in Harvey, Illinois. I know that my coming out and coming in are the forces of the deepest power. Our spirit, art, and eros are abinibi, natural and crafted as it should be. At some point for me, it all became the same thing. That awe-full place of the most profound truth that when accessed, when respected, would change everything. Could I go there? Would I choose truth and power over a beautiful mask? I ask myself this every time I am in the presence of this work. It takes me to the edge and I stop at the banks of the river or get in with the fish and improvise. I bring all of this together as I go wider and deeper. It is all the same. It is the essence of being, the roots, the thang, the spirit. Theater does not exist without it. Jazz wouldn't be without it. Magic cannot happen without the surrender to the mystery. And this writing, this evening, this work with you is how I begin to tell it as the same tune. This is humbly and audaciously about freedom. It looks at how artists are made and how artists make art. How the singular voice can create spaces of freedom for the many. Jazz and ashe, a Yoruba concept identifying the ability or authority to make things happen, work as tools for combating the destructive, ethnocentric forces at play in the world. The book that I am working on exists as a way to confront these forces and to prescribe varied, insurgent performance alternatives. More personally, this is about finding my own voice, self, freedom through the jazz-inflected, spirit-inspired traditions of 3 Black theater artists, and about passing my understandings on in the tradition of apprentice-elder relationships. Jazz, ashe, and the power of the present moment, excerpts of which I'll be sharing with you this evening, is the first full-length study of the use of theatrical jazz aesthetics. It gives particular attention to 3 innovative practitioners of the form, Lori Carlos, Daniel Alexander Jones, and Sharon Bridgeforth. These artists are featured here because of the scope and sway of their work, which moves around the US while gathering in a host of new adherents and practitioners along the way. Through ethnographic documentation, close readings of texts and performances, and critical analysis, the book examines the major works of these artists and details the intricate mechanics of this aesthetic. So tonight we gather, all of us, Those of us who are affiliated with theater, who are you out there? You're affiliated with theater? Okay, all right. Those of you who are affiliated with African studies, who are you out there? Let me see. Okay. Those of you who do work in queer theory, out there. I know there's some hands. Thank you very much. Those of you who are affiliated with Black studies, hands. Those who are feminists and do feminist work, hands, great. All of you here are needed to make this moment, this very particular moment happen. This stew that we are creating together. Throughout the book, the spiritual worldview I use as an analytic methodology is Yoruba-based. Yoruba, a diasporic reality that is moved from and through Nigeria, with a particularly active presence in Benin, Ghana, Trinidad, the US, Cuba, and Brazil. I am interested in resonances, not continuities, between jazz aesthetics, these artists, and Yoruba cosmology. Here, Yoruba becomes a way to see into and experience the works rather than a conscious artistic choice. I'm excited by the way Yoruba cosmology might inform our understanding of life generally and Black life specifically. How do the Yoruba notions of Egbe, a work group, Iwa, character or virtue, whose the root word for virtuosity, Awo, the mystery, Ashe, the authority to make things happen. How do these Yoruba notions offer political, artistic, and everyday clarity in the way that the concepts of sin, salvation, redemption, meditation, sacrifice have become common analytical tools from other spiritual traditions? Theatrical jazz is a distinctive way to make work and make life. Indeed, theatrical jazz acknowledges the necessary seamlessness of the two. While this aesthetic lens leans very heavily on elements of jazz, including ensemble and individual virtuosity, improvisation, polyrhythms, the bridge, and the break, it also references modern dance idioms, the blues sensibilities, the performance art antecedents, and the ancestral calling that positioned theatrical jazz as a distinctive performance genre. The texts and productions made from this artistic sensibility are diverse, yet some features are common through the range of works. Most often, theatrical jazz is nonlinear and trans-temporal. It offers a complex idea of Blackness that challenges monolithic definitions and predictable associations. The narratives often explore power and identity, sex and desire, and are frequently subjective explorations of the writer's life. Love, joy, and community are often the exacting roads to transformation. In production, the bodies often share non-mimetic movements that are layered onto the verbal text as a counterpoint, providing physical and visual stories of their own. Jazz, Ashe, and the power of the present moment uses Yoruba cosmology to illuminate the spiritual impulses that undergird the work. The Yoruba sensibilities that pervade this book are derived from my experiences with Yoruba-based traditions, specifically my relationship with Oshun, the divinity of healing, culture, and abundant joy. While I acknowledge the Nigerian, Cuban, and US underpinnings of my spiritual development, what is presented here is my own lived understanding of Yoruba cosmology, forged from many sources and certainties. Yoruba-based spiritual traditions, or Isheshe traditions, are African diasporic, West African-derived practices in which ritual, everyday performance, and transformation mingle together in the name of creativity. Ashe becomes the animating feature of this aesthetic. Yoruba cosmology then becomes a specific spiritual methodology for understanding how performance is generated and how performance generates change. At the Bembe, The drums begin for Oshun. Iragbagba, Iragbagba, Iragbagba. And once again, the spiritual spotlight was on me. My movements from Oshogbo, refined by Miami and tested in Harlem, are often called upon to help bring Oshun down. It is my job and my joy. Asheo, though anxieties impede the process, the drums beat with greater sharpness. Slap, thump, 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 slap, thump, 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 slap, thump, thump, thump. As the drummers focus on my fading consciousness, the bell is played directly in my ear, the singer vibrating right over my ori, the circle of practitioners moving back, giving Oshun her room. A fan is shoved in my waving hand. I feel giddy and awkwardly seductive, exposed, vulnerable, ready, almost ready. Just peeking through. The laughter comes through my lips and the tears come to my lids at the same time. I frown and laugh and cry and giggle, and then she spins. I am present and not here and there, aware and numb. Oshun came to say hello. In the moment when my connection to her was more important than the people present, when the divine was the primary energy, not accuracy or praise, exhaustion and exhilaration. And so it is. In the sharp present tense, that is Yoruba-based spiritual life. And so it is. The jazz aesthetic in theater relies on a particular brand of collaboration that extends beyond the rehearsals and the production. It is a binding and intimate collaboration that blends daily caretaking with apprenticeship, while closely resembling the Yoruba concept of egbe, a group of people joined by a common goal. My experience with Isheshe-based communities in the US and my work with Orisha communities in Nigeria have informed my understanding of egbe, in which members are expected to consistently, and among some communities, unquestioningly support the group's needs and maintain the group's tradition. The egbe is an intricate strand in the social structure. It teaches community building, responsibility, and accountability. Perhaps the greatest breach in an egbe is lack of reliability. One's actions are situated within the frame of the egbe and within the context of the larger society. Egbe is also related to the idea of tribe in the best sense, the richest sense of that term, in the sharing of customs and the family-like closeness of its members. Through continual and varied interactions, the egbe itself evolves into a process so that egbe slides from a noun to a verb. Caretaking, truth-telling, self-confrontation with the egbe as witness, an organic apprenticeship in which the members both model for and learn from each other. The daily interaction with the tribe, with the egbe, serves to solidify the aesthetic. Be present, tell the truth, work for peace and joy. Wynton Marsalis has said, the choices you make on the bandstand are exactly like the choices you're going to make in society. Coming for someone else. Who should I talk? I could talk to my daughter, but she hears this all the time. I could talk to the Falolas, but they know all of this. I'll talk to you, okay? Good enough? Yes. All right, and what's your name? Tim. Tim? Hey, Tim, I'm Omi. Nice to meet you. Thanks for listening. The cast of a show, Love Conjure Blues, gathered one evening at my home for an informal meal. Most of us played and teased and talked trash throughout the night, but one person stood apart from the group. I recognized the behavior because it was so similar to my own. For years, I had seen Lori, Daniel, Sharon, Florinda, Sohn, as many of us call Sonia Perriman, and Zell Miller III as a closed group of intimate friends. The inside jokes, the shared histories, the productions together seemed to keep me on the outside of what appeared to be the in-group. Do you relate to that at all? Okay, I think all of us do at some point or another. At that time, I did not realize that the supposed in-group actually bonded because of their outsider status. Outside mainstream life, outside mainstream theater, outside the habits, values of their blood family. When invited to meals or movies, I would shyly decline, thinking that I would be a sore thumb in spite of the fact that I'd been invited. I was closed to the challenges and uncertainties of personal interaction as well as to the demands of being present on stage. The two go hand in hand. Art requires the courage to expose oneself and the joyful foolishness to risk certainty. What I didn't realize then was that the jazz aesthetic is incorporative. It borrows, includes, stirs many elements into the root. The people who develop the jazz aesthetic are, like the aesthetic itself, an amalgam. This is not an egg of similar people. Indeed, the power of the group is directly related to the distinctiveness of each member. It is an egg based on the deep understanding that one must be present to fully live, must feel and tell the truth, must risk being accepted or included, must be absolutely oneself. And when you create such realities together, you work to protect and preserve that. Egbe helps sustain the breath of life. So, when one of the members of the newly constituted Love Conjure Blues company, their theater company, chose to stand apart doing all of the party activities, in fact, once left the party to sit alone in the driveway, okay? While others ate, listened to music, and joked inside, I immediately recognized the simultaneous desire to be rooted inside the group and the debilitating fear that I did not fit, that I would not measure up. By removing oneself from the group, one shouts, "You can't rely on me, I am not to be trusted." This is the enactment of passive-aggressive violence that lives as a rupture inside of the group and reveals one's own inability to sustain the rigors of an egg bag.